You was a member of the largest independent boy band in the UK?
Got into that first deal and bought a pub. I knew that if I document the whole thing from the start, I knew YouTube would pay off. We've raised millions and millions of pounds already through YouTube. We've never lost an investor money, and we've never lost our money on any jobs other than one.
Okay.
And it was the second property we went to buy. I think it's a scary world we're stepping into where people aren't aware of what inflation actually means.
Critically analyse my business. This sounds like it's going to be bad. Ryan Beaumont.
Mr. Payne.
Strong name. You feeling strong?
Strong stance.
The strong stance, yeah. Feeling strong, Ryan?
Yeah, feeling strong, mate, yeah.
Put it there.
You've just seen that, yeah? I just won that.
Yeah. I let him win. Because he's a guest on the show, I'd let him win. Thanks for coming down.
All right.
Great to spend time with you. Today we've been around some of our sites. You've met my team, come around the business, but for the purpose of the viewers and for what we're trying to do here, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan.
Yep, so I am coming on 28 as of about a week or two's time. So we're in January at the moment, aren't we? 2024. So I run a group of businesses, but it's a development business up in the northeast, and we have construction, lettings, investment services, sourcing, and now we're looking to add an educational arm to it as well. The idea being we've captured the life cycle for a client. So they come in at the acquisition stage, and we are extending the lifetime value of that client by having and encapsulating the different services involved with a development project.
Okay.
It's taken us many years to build up and very stressful, and we'll go into all of that. But we've got it to a point now where we've got a consistent flow of clients, marketing's good, we're getting investor inquiries all the time. I had one come through today, secured a project today, so we're moving quite quickly, and it's just about consolidating those businesses. And because we're family orientated, it's a family run business, we have obviously different friends and then now more staff that work for us as well. We're at about 35 in the team.
Okay, decent size.
Yeah, so we've got about 15 in the management side of things, and then the rest of them are all lads on site. So obviously running construction, you have a lot of lads. Yeah. And some lasses as well, we have now as well. And that's me, mate, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, obviously you come around with me today and I've seen that your business is quite busy. Just in today you had like an offer accepted, you had investor leads coming through, your phone was going off,
valuation back,
social media things happening, valuation back. I thought you was coming down to watch what I was doing. I ended up watching what you was doing. But is your business, is it growing rapidly at the moment then?
It is, yeah. I think we more than 10x'd from last year. But we weren't, the years before that, we were building the family portfolio. That was the main goal. And
in HMOs or
and commercial to resi.
Commercial to resi as well.
Yeah, the first one we did was commercial to residential. Took a pub, converted it to apartments and HMOs, and then we bought another bigger building as well, which you've come and seen, the 40 service apartments. Yeah. And then we've done
Beaumont House.
Beaumont House, yeah, called the Beaumonts. Yeah. Branding, mate, might as well, because it's a very busy street.
It's like a name off the Wolf of Wall Street, Stratton Oakmont, but yeah.
We're not con artists though.
No, of course. But you never starred in property, did you? You've actually got quite a colourful background. Actually, you was a member of the largest independent boy band in the UK.
Road Trip, yeah.
Road Trip. Yeah. Actually, listened to a couple of your songs today. I'm definitely a fan. After this, I need an autograph off you.
Yeah, no problem, mate.
Frame it.
You got my number. So.
But what tell us about that then. So the boy band. You exploded. You've got millions of followers online, selling out tours into property. I mean, tell us about that.
So the transition was, I've always been pretty business focused. Like growing up through school, was the guy trading and selling stuff, trying to make money on the side, did loads of other kinds of jobs, but always was into sport, football, and I did free running. And I saw music come along and realised there's no way of making money in free running. It's purely just like quite a stoic endeavour. Like it was nice to sort of find yourself and be a bit minimalist and stuff, but I realised, I want to have a future where I can have an impact and do things, and you just can't if you're in an extreme sport like that because there's just no money. And I saw music.
So it was like backpacking, doing freestyle across the cities, was it?
Yeah, pretty much. Literally that for years.
Was you doing the high-rise stuff that some of these people do? Was you?
Yeah, I was mates with all those guys, yeah.
You wasn't doing things like backflips on tops of buildings?
Yeah. All of that. It's all on YouTube. You can go find it.
Well, it makes sense you've gone into a high-risk business like property development then, but we'll come on to that.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I would say free running moulded a mindset. I was quite a bold character, but the free running moulded a mindset for me because you have to look quite intrinsic, and you look at yourself and go like, life or death situation sometimes, and control your physical body, and then be able to make a decision, a calculated decision. Can I make this leap? Can I do this move or whatever and not hurt myself? And that trains a certain muscle in the brain. And then going into music, that exact same thing that I trained helped when it came to going on stage, which is, I suppose, the higher octane side of music.
Yeah.
A lot of people get nervous before going on stage. I still had those feelings, but I knew that I'd get on that stage and I'll be sound because death wasn't a consequence now.
So your confidence come from free running, you would say?
I've always been...
Because you're a very confident person.
I think I've always had that. I think I've always been quite external. I think that comes more from growing up. I moved around a lot as a kid.
Right.
So I had some new environments, new schools, new places. You either, you sink or swim.
Yeah, you do.
Either you kind of be a bit quiet and move around. But I went in and was always like, how can I be the most popular person as quick as possible?
Was you? Yeah. I can imagine that.
Yeah, mate. It was. Yeah, I mean, I definitely ruffled some feathers in school. But then free running actually sort of calmed me down, actually. It made me look a bit more intrinsic. It did make me look inward and go like, who am I? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But also just not sustainable, and there's no job prospect in it. And things like that. I love doing it. That's when music came along, and I thought, do you know what? Maybe I can sing.
Yeah.
Never tried it really before, but sung with mum in the car. I knew that I had a tune.
Okay.
And then just developed that muscle for about 8 months. Got into music, grafted my way up, long story. And then built an independent band.
Did you have lessons for singing, just out of curiosity? Because I think I'm a great singer in my head, but I'm terrible.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You sing now.
No. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. That's for another. We'll do another video on that. Me singing and you critiquing.
Yeah.
Like X Factor. Yeah. Give you a big red buzzer. But anyway, so you launched that band.
Yeah.
You scaled that band into substantial heights. Mm-hmm. Which obviously you've got some translatable skills from that to run a business with the level of ambition you have.
Yeah.
I mean, so what was the biggest takeaway from doing that?
Marketing,
Modern
methods of marketing. Yeah, I think being able to leverage attention, quite cheap attention that you can get as well, and turning that into a transaction of some sort. I realised that through the band. There's definitely something I wasn't aware of before the band. The confidence and the other bits of that, I could see how they translated. But just understanding that if you can get people's attention, you can do a hell of a lot of damage with it. Yeah. If you can funnel it the right way, if you come across the right way, if you position it the right way. Yeah. And I took that same angle into property. Yeah.
So you built your network, you built your exposure, you built your brand, and no doubt you had endless amounts of people trying to message you and get in contact with you, other than the screaming girls. Yeah. But then you decided to get into property there. Mm-hmm. I know you said there was some exposure for the family side for building the portfolio there. Was that happening as you was building the brand? Did you get exposure at the same time?
I mean, it was... So my dad was in investments. Okay. He was doing something completely different. Right. And I was doing this, and then I literally came across a Samuel Leeds video. Okay. And I watched that video and went, what's he on about? Like, you buy a property cheap, and you can turn it round.
On YouTube?
Yeah, saw it on YouTube. Okay. And it was just the first time I'd seen anyone talk about the concept of buying a property for cheap, doing it up, and then you can refinance it and get most of your money back. And I was like, something interesting in that. And at the time, I was doing a load of side hustles, so that, as well as building the band. I tried to build an app and all these other things. Yeah, I had this wicked idea for an app. I thought it'd be sick, but it sounds like you need millions of pounds to get off the ground. And it was basically like, I'm in this band. I probably shouldn't focus too much on that. But it got to a point in the band where I was like, I'm getting older. Like, I need security. Yeah. And I watched that Samuel Leeds video and just went, there's something in that. Like, if what he's saying is true, like, that could work. So I watched more of his videos, bought his book, bought a load of other people's books, and then I just DM'd Sam. Okay. And he responded, and I had a lot of followers, so again, leverage. Yeah, if I didn't have the followers.
So you think because he's seen that, he's seen the followers message you back?
Absolutely, yeah.
And do you think you just being out there, if you had 500 followers, do you think he would have messaged you back?
No, probably not. No. But like, and it was two ways. I wouldn't have messaged him if he didn't look like he knew what he was talking about. Yeah. And the numbers helped with that.
I mean, being brutal about it then, because you've got a lot of followers, you must have messages all the time.
Yeah.
Do you look to see their following before you respond?
I don't necessarily care about the following as much as I do about their
relevance.
Archives. Yeah, like what they're up to.
So you look for the relevance.
Yeah. But it depends though, because sometimes it may be an investor. Yeah. But to be fair, I don't do much in my DMs. My DMs are they're like that all the time.
Well, yeah, of course, I could imagine. Yeah.
So I don't really they're not useful to me. This is why we try and funnel them through the website. Yeah. Any inquiries, so otherwise it gets lost in the noise.
Right. So you did that though. So you got your foot in then, so you got exposed to property, and then you decided then just to go.
Well, yeah, but I DM'd Sam, and then and read a lot of other books as well. Like tried to get a whole different amount of information in, and then went to meet Sam for a meal. We had a meal, spoke about a load of different stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, this is something I could probably do. And then spoke to Dad about it because he's in investments.
Yep.
And I was like, here's it that we can create. And then we both realized we could create a product out of this. We could create an investment product, which means we could raise capital and build portfolios with investors. We do the work.
Yeah.
They bring the money to the table. And we build. We had some money at the time as well. Like my dad had some money from another thing. I had a few grand to my name, but I also owed a lot of debt because the band left me in a bad way.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, rough the way
okay.
the way it sort of ended. But I fought my battles and I won in the end. And now I'm winning now. Got into that first deal and bought a pub. And literally boots on the ground was early 2020, so we got pretty screwed by the lockdowns.
Wow.
And then
so that was when it first really all started. So that's
pretty much. Yeah. Well, it started about a year before that.
Right.
The whole R&D, and we went to look at pretty much every town in the country.
Yeah.
We went to look everywhere for where's the best places, and we recognised the levelling up agenda, which at the time the sitting Prime Minister Boris spoke about, and we could tell that they were going to deliver on that levelling up because they needed the votes. Because what was a traditionally Labour voting demographic needed to be won over by the Conservatives. So getting confused with American policies now. By the Conservatives, they were putting a lot of things in place, like with the Treasury, with the free ports and other stuff up in the northeast. And we were like, okay, Manchester has had its boom. Birmingham's already quite a high entry point, pretty saturated. We looked in the Midlands and we looked at Sheffield, Leeds, places like that. They were already kind of on the up anyway. The northeast was untouched.
Right.
So we were like, let's go up there. Found this pub, all kinds of other stuff, got the pub, and then got some other bits. And now that's all these years later is paying off massively because that levelling up agenda has come to fruition. Treasury is now in dialogue, massive government departments coming, billions of pounds of institutional capital is coming, and we've bought a lot of cheap sites and getting good yields. So we recognised the opportunity in the northeast, recognised we didn't need to raise a lot of capital to acquire compared to say if we're doing it in London. I just wanted to scale a model out of it.
Okay, fair enough. So then, from in terms of your business, then like you said, early 2020, like one of the first projects you bought. How did you do that? How did you go about raising money to do that project? What did you?
So Dad had probably, can't remember the numbers now, but it was something like 120, 150 grand, something like that he had stored up, and I had literally a few grand, and I was owed a few grand as well. And I think I ended up putting all of that in. And Dad put all of his in, and then we managed to borrow because that would have all bought us the site, which was fine, bought about 130 grand.
So you bought the site outright?
Yeah.
And then you got like traditional refurb finance, did you?
Then went to get bridging.
Bridging, yeah.
But then with Octopus, and Octopus pulled out the market
because of, yeah.
So then we needed to raise about 50 grand in fixed rate to come in and give us a bit of liquid whilst we reorganised the debt.
Yeah.
And then we managed to get the debt reorganised. That was all sorted, but the 50 stayed in for the duration.
Where did you get that from? Did you work with investors then? I'm sure, like
one of Dad's old contacts.
So is that really what made you also open your eyes to the potential scalability of property through working with investors, knowing that there's actually money out there that can go into
start,
that?
Oh, you did. We knew it from the start. We knew that if we can productise property, because loads of people do it.
Yeah.
And we knew there's a market for it, but we knew that if we could do it in this way, produce yields, tangible yields, and I knew that if I document the whole thing from the start, I knew YouTube would pay off. Okay. And I kept saying, I was like, YouTube will pay off, because in the early days it didn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was just we were documenting our journey, and it just starts to compound, and people start following.
And you'd say YouTube is paying off for you now, then?
Massive.
So to give an example, what type of things come from YouTube?
We must have. I don't know. We've raised millions and millions of pounds already through YouTube.
Through YouTube?
Yeah. Through social media, but I think it's the YouTube that's really doing it, because that's where all the historic videos are.
Okay.
And it gives it gives that brand presence. It gives that social proof that from this date till now, here's all the projects they've done. They're still going. Well, they're doing it.
Yeah.
And there's no denying that. And I think investors want to look for that kind of security. And there's not a lot of people doing it. And I knew that would pay off, because I saw it pay off in the band, and I saw it pay off in other verticals.
Yeah, well, you could see with the band, obviously, it was very, very, very popular, which...
because we filmed it from the start, from a one-bed council flat. We documented the whole journey of literally trialling the members, bringing them in and out, and people from America, people from Germany, and then all the way up to when we lived in a 5-bed mansion with a swimming pool. But people followed that journey, and they liked following that journey, and we wanted to do the same thing in...
Missed that mansion?
London.
Oh, do I miss it? Did you miss it?
Not particularly, no. No, it's effort to look after that. Don't have an indoor pool, mate. No, one of the boys left the humidity on once, and
Did he?
mold went.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, but we knew we could productize it, and I knew social media could sell it. I just didn't know how long it would take.
Yeah.
And about a year ago, once we started delivering the pitch, which was, if you're an investor and you want to,
Like your tagline at the end, was it? Like
Exactly,
when they watched the video, they've had the value, and then you've said to them, your call to action was, if you're an investor and you like what we do, reach out,
get in contact.
get in contact.
And then that started happening, and then we would get like the first one came through.
Yeah.
And we were like, shit, it's actually working. We networked our network as much as we could.
Yeah.
At some point, you need to be able to outreach and scale it. And the first one came in, and then a couple of weeks later, we had another inquiry, went a bit flaky. And then over time, it's now pretty much every other day we'll have an investor inquiry.
Great. So now you're at the stage now where you've done several deals and you're very active. And when I came up to see you, you were doing 30 HMO, 30 projects a year, excluding your other development stuff. So from 0 to the level of activity you're doing is, phenomenal. So no doubt you've experienced good projects and bad projects. Yeah. So for the benefit of people watching, like what's been a real challenge that you've overcome that could really add value to somebody looking to get into property?
So we've never lost an investor money, and we've never lost our money on any jobs other than one.
Okay.
And it was the second property we went to buy, and it was purely because of a lack of knowledge. So up until now, I've had a thing against training courses where I'm like, well, why would you teach people if you could?
Yeah, the old adage, isn't it? Yeah. Those that teach can't do. Basically.
Yeah. Those that can do, those that can't teach.
Yeah.
And I always sort of thought that way, but I mean, ultimately, I learned the hard way because I didn't do courses, so I lost money.
Yeah.
And I probably could have paid for courses and not lost the money. Okay. And I sort of come round to that now.
So do you reckon the mistakes you made were actually, in hindsight, relatively simple mistakes you would have picked up from some training?
Exactly, and that's the one I'm going to explain. On the second project, we got a deal secured in auction. On paper, everything worked nicely.
Yeah.
But we got a building condition report done for the lender. The lender wanted it done. And
like a structural survey?
Just a condition report, really, more than a structural survey.
All right.
But there were signs of subsidence, and we had I can't remember the numbers, but top of my head, it was something like we had 60 grand budget for the refurb, buying it for like 120 grand or something.
Okay.
And the condition report came back with all these different problems in the property.
Right.
And one of them was the subsidence and underpinning and stuff like that.
So it said you needed underpinning.
Yeah, and suddenly it looked like 95 grand on the refurb costs, and we were like, oh shit, I actually think it was a lot more than that. It looked silly, and we were like, oh shit, we've secured it at auction, we've paid our deposit.
Oh, so you actually bought it?
Oh yeah, we just exchanged it. Because to me it looked fine.
Yeah.
And it turns out, so we then pulled out and went, we either lose the 12 grand, or we could sink loads of money into this thing, go and buy this report we're reading.
Yeah.
And then turns out afterwards, so we lost the 12 grand, and that's the only time we've lost money. But we chose to lose the money, so it's kind of like, but what really happened is in that condition report, he listed a load of stuff, which at the time I just didn't know about, a load of stuff that we were going to remedy anyway in our refurb.
Okay.
And the subsidence was historic, so the chances of us...
It was more settlement.
Yeah, it was more just like, it did move at once.
But it's not moved since.
Not moving
so it's
now.
Settled and
Yeah, but he didn't say that in his report.
Right.
And his report just probably wasn't very good. Because now I know more.
Yeah, you can challenge things. You've got confidence to challenge now.
Exactly. To me, I just looked at that and went, it's 40 grand more on the refurb than it's meant to be. Yeah. We might as well just lose 12 grand now than lose that. And it's a silly decision.
So that's an interesting point because property has been a hot topic for kind of forever in my opinion, but for years anyway. And it is always now really. But there's always people asking, even me, I don't have a following like you do, but I get messages all the time. I want to get started. How do I get started? What do I do? Off the top of your head now, what would be one of the first few things you would say to somebody be like, I want to get into an investment like you?
Yeah, learn. First thing is go learn as much as you can. I mean, learn as much as you can for free. Like I say free, buy some books, watch podcasts, go and try and network with people. If you've got a mate's dad who's in management or something. I was speaking with someone the other day who's in this exact position. I was like, I spend time with them.
Yeah.
Like go do stuff with them for a bit. And then you get to a point where you start to need to know more about the strategy, the business planning, raising capital, and there are good courses out there on it.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to position ourselves in that place where we just share our knowledge.
Yeah.
We benefit to us as we can monetize our knowledge. Benefit to them as they get sort of a quick start or a fast track. Here's how you do basic principle stuff.
Okay, so you believe that training courses can genuinely help those people. There are some out there that may not be, useful, but there are, for the most part, they'll pick up, even if it's those simple things which may help them not lose tens of thousands of pounds on their first project or two.
Yeah. And I'd say to vet the person who's selling the course, just see what they've done.
See what they've done.
Like make sure that they've got a track record of delivering projects. And then,
all right, no problem. In terms of then, the other side as well, the marketing. You've emphasised how important it is for you. We're seeing the benefits of it as well at such an early stage. And but you also see so many people in the investment and development space not doing that.
Yeah.
And you're also talking to people, I am, and they're scared to do that. Scared to get in front of a camera, worried about what people are going to say, all the hateful things. You do get a lot of hate. Do you still get a lot of hate on across all the time? So what would be from my point of view, for people watching, the benefits from marketing that we found is obviously investment, team members, supply chain. People want to work with you. You become an authority in what you do, so you can really influence people. You can build your own community and really do some great things with them. You agree with all that?
Yeah.
So what top tips would you give people in terms of they've got no brand behind them, no following behind them? What should they do?
Split it into two things. There's the mental side of it, the way you position it as a priority in your head, and then there's the practical stuff. Practical stuff is if you're starting out, just film yourself as much as possible. Use your iPhone, just film. Literally, it's Stuart who is in a TDC with us.
Yeah.
He's a great example. Go look at Stuart Waith on Instagram.
Yeah, Wyeth.
Yeah, and he's a perfect example of someone who can just pick up a phone, show what he's doing, stick it on Instagram. And
have tens of thousands of views.
And he's managed to raise capital out of it. Like it's such a simple way to start. Anyone can do that.
Yeah.
But the other side of the coin really is because most people could figure out how to do the marketing. It's a gradual iterative process. You get better at doing it. You deliver your story.
As long as you keep learning.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Learning, trialing things, getting better.
Works. Yeah.
What's the other side?
The other side is the prioritization in your head. This is where most currently. So if you sort of flip it on its head, so rather than people who are starting out, people who already have a successful business.
Yeah.
You're a good example of this. And you've obviously taken the action to go, I'm going to actually start doing this social media stuff, doing this marketing.
With your help, thanks.
No, that's all right, mate. But someone like you, all the things you got going on in your head, you might just go, getting the camera out, like filming, really, is that a priority? I've got to think about 100 grand I've got to put in.
Well, that's exactly what it was like for me. And you kept challenging me and being like, what are you doing? All of these projects you've got, building 10 sites, you've got all this pipeline, the staff, the team, all the social house building we're doing, the impact we're having. Record it, document it. Why are you not doing that? And got to the point where I was thinking to myself, there's no reason why we're not documenting it, really. So just carve out the time and do it.
Exactly, yeah. It's that prioritization.
Yeah, prioritization was stopping me,
Especially for people who have established business. I just think it's harder for people who have established businesses because they already have a list of priorities. Yeah. But you've got to move that marketing one literally almost to the top. Cash flow first, then marketing.
Wow. Come on to that. So obviously, for anybody watching, they probably, if they're not following you, then obviously do follow Ryan. You'll pick up a lot along the way. But you've built your business. It's trading rapidly, growing rapidly. You've got lots of clients, lots of investors. You've got a good team now. So you have people. Cash flow. What's the biggest? Is the biggest? Challenge of your business, like ours, cash flow?
Yes. Easily.
Yeah.
And it comes from doing our own development.
And that's kind of like a warning out there, isn't it, to people getting involved in, like, cash flow issues will come one day. Timing issues of got this deal, don't have the investor. Got the investor, don't have the deal.
Yeah.
And then the working capital.
Yeah.
How are you experiencing that with your rapid growth?
I mean, we felt the bottleneck massively when we were doing mostly joint ventures because development's a feast of famine. And it takes one thing to go wrong, and suddenly you're having to find, even if it's just 10 grand, but if you're only doing JVs, that could be 3-4 months worth of your income. Then what do you do? Like, it's sometimes it's 100 grand if you're doing bigger projects. So we recognised that we needed to create more cash flow, more cash pots. So we then productized it, sold it to investors as a service.
So you developed a service.
Exactly. Cash flow and trading vehicle. We spoke about this. Like, you need a trading vehicle now. To be a developer now, you need a trading vehicle. And for us, our cash flow problems come from our own developments. Because we're on the ball with clients' jobs. And I'm not just saying this because I know clients might watch this, but with a client's job, it has to return profits for us.
And you want repeat business. You want that cash flow.
So our own jobs get stuck to the side.
So you'll mothball your own job to prioritise your clients' jobs because you know that will bring in that cash flow earlier, build your brand, get repeat business, and then when the cash flow position is positive, you go back into your business, your projects.
But then eventually you got to put the money into that one, because we try not to borrow money on the dev.
Okay.
Try just fund it through cash.
Oh, deal.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
We'll try and do that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And also funding things like the office and growing the team out and all kind. We had a massive shortfall on the bigger job where we had to cover like a 200 grand hole. All kinds of nasty shit that went on, and the cash flow that we were creating had to go into those things.
Yeah, and that 200 grand hole, from some people watching, they'd be like, that's just massive. How can you get a 200 grand hole? Is that just because unforeseens come up that cost a fortune?
Well, yeah.
Because in a development, it does not take long, to lose tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in extra costs.
Well, that was £1 million job.
Yeah, okay.
And for it to go up 20%, it's not really unheard of.
It's not unheard of, no.
During inflation and Liz Truss and bad management on my side,
our job costs went up 20-30% during the inflation period.
Yeah,
the sale prices now that we're doing with clients versus what it was just 3 years ago is like 30% different. No one's got a 30% margin really in this business.
No.
So that means you're going to have a hard time unless your sale price has gone up.
Yeah.
We fixed ours in, so we've had cash flow, the issues because of that, and it's damaging, and you've got to be able to work out how can you get around that.
Yeah.
But for them, people getting into property investment, doing their own deals, like you said, even if they had money, they can very quickly tie up all their money. If something takes longer and it doesn't refinance in time, it doesn't sell in time, they've run out of cash flow. So would you say having that trading element or service element that brings in cash flow along the way is critical for a sustainable investment and development business?
Yeah, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between building a portfolio for yourself and then creating a service out of development and investment.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to work with investors at scale, and you're starting to build a staff and team, I just think you can't rely on the proceeds of the development itself. Like there has to be outside residual revenue streams, or you have a good job and you're doing it half part-time or something.
So goal one, whatever you're doing with your team and or your outgoings, you want to be in a positive cash position. You want to be able to,
Unless if you're building a portfolio passively and you're doing a few HMOs a year, or bigger sites, like you need good capital.
Okay.
But you could do that if you've got a good income from your day job.
Yeah.
And you're spending half the time in developments, half the time in day job. Like you can manage that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So in terms of then like emerging trends in property or business world, what's hot on your mind at the moment? What's Ryan Beaumont thinking about?
At the moment, HMOs, and I've sang their praises for years now, just because we've been in necessity times for a while. And HMOs are a necessity product for a necessity time, with their affordable accommodation, their high yields for investors with capital who are trying to hedge against inflation. They answer a housing need. There's so many things HMOs do. And being in the private market as well, it can help because you be a bit more flexible. So there's all kinds of benefits to the HMOs. And I do think they are, it depends where you go. You've got to be careful with HMOs as well, because you put them on the wrong street and you can just get all kinds of sorts in there, and that can.
So you really got to know your area.
Yeah, you got to know your. Yeah, HMOs are like that. They're kind of like heroin in a way that they're really good yields.
Right. Okay.
And you just like more HMOs, please, really good yields. But
it can go wrong quite
but
quickly.
You can get addicted and then just start buying the wrong. It's not like a big development where it can wipe you out, but you can just make measly returns, and it's like, well.
And the mental space too. I was involved with HMO previously, 6-bed, put in the wrong tenant, 5 tenants left. Yeah. Last tenant left in there, couldn't get it out legally. It takes a while. She brought in people that were not invited. And the mental headspace it takes, it just it demoralizes and makes you not be able to really think about and do anything else, because it's just causing you such an headache. Neighbours moaning. It's really hard. So, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I think if the way we position ourselves in the market is we are trying to be the best quality HMOs,
right?
Without putting in gold shower trays and but we're trying to be the best quality HMOs in good areas, good sustainable.
So your spec of HMO isn't there with? Are they all en suite?
All on. We try and do all on suites. Well, we do all on suites, but we're now actually changing our model slightly to go for. We'll put en suites in if the rooms allow for them. But now we're going to try and prioritise bigger rooms.
Okay.
And some share.
What's the average size of your rooms at the moment?
9 square metres minimum.
Right.
But we probably hit about like 12 square metres, I'd say. Okay. But there's always those pokey rooms. Normally there's 2 or 3 in a house where you could get the ensuite in there, but then you get a small room. So what we want to do now is try and have those 2 or 3 share a bathroom, but now gives them a kitchenette, a TV, and a much nicer living space to spend more on the extensions. Yeah. And we're thinking that that might be better on the retention and the quality of tenant we can get in there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
bit of playing around with the product.
Fine. And in terms of like the macro trends, then you're seeing, you know, what else is on your mind from that point of view?
I mean, so much. I probably 50% of my brain power probably just goes towards studying what's happening in the wider
Sat
world.
in your study thinking about the macro impacts,
Exactly.
is it?
Reading books. Yeah, because I mean, it's so...
Getting down rabbit holes online.
Yeah, literally going down rabbit holes, learning about stuff, speaking to people, reading books, podcasts, and just thinking. Like sometimes I'll spend a lot of time thinking.
Well, when I speak to you, I always leave the conversations after I speak to you thinking I'm not thinking like deep enough here. You know, there's things going on that I know are going on, but I'm not spending enough time thinking about those things because of prioritization. You know, the business is fly. There's lots to do, and I'm thinking about the here, the now, and the next few years, not necessarily the next. What I think is emerging over the next decade or so. But
I think I don't think what I do is healthy at all. I can't help it. It's like I'm seeing this stuff, and I'm like, well, if that happens, then that happens, and that happens. What's the first, second, and third order consequences of the things that we're seeing play out? And I think property helped me to refine this tool as well because we're so susceptible to the markets. And it made me go, well, what the are these guys doing over there, pulling this lever and that lever, and now I'm paying 4% more on my interest. Like, what's going on? And you start to just learn more, and that helps on the rabbit holes because it feels more productive as well. And then you start to realize things. So, I mean, Bitcoin's one of the big ones.
So digital currency.
Well, Bitcoin.
Just Bitcoin. So right, okay.
To me, you got to split them up.
Oh, you've got to split them up. Yeah.
Well, if we're thinking base reality, like what is real?
So all the rest of the coins.
All the rest of the coins are
okay.
And there is a distinguishment, and the SEC in America has also determined this. Bitcoin is a commodity.
Okay.
The rest of them are unregulated securities.
Okay, right.
So there's a big difference. Like legally, or tax-wise, there's a big difference. And technology-wise, there's a big difference in the sense that this is a truly decentralized technology.
Right.
And that's huge. Like the fact that it's decentralized, the fact that it works on all these nodes on a network that have to agree simultaneously, the compute power goes up the stronger the network gets, which makes it more impenetrable. It's an immutable network. It's a limited supply. It's just like this is going to be the asset.
So we think that that's going to be the currency or a form of currency, actual currency in the widespread, right? Yeah.
I don't think it will take the currency position.
Right.
I think there will be a liquid layer on top of it. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to play out. There's a lot of people that
it'll be built off.
I think it's a store of value.
Right.
So at the moment, a lot of the world's value is stored in things like treasury bonds, gilts, things like that, and institutional money. Think about people's pensions and insurance companies. But I think they're going to then look to Bitcoin. And what Bitcoin is going to do, because technology moves everything down to the marginal cost of production, which means technology is deflationary by nature. Everything should be going to free. But the debt system...
Well, they do say that with technology advancements, technology advancements technically driving deflation because the cost of things are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then if you're in a competitive market, obviously you compete on price. So the price will go down. And then, eventually they say that if the world's run by robots and technology for the main part, then the level of the economy really becomes to a base universal income.
Literally.
But then do you think that us as humans were geared up for that? Because wars have been fought over just extra resource all the time. There's people out there that they strive for more resource, more money. They want more land. They want to own stuff. They want more than the next person. Wars get started from that.
But there's so many variables at play, right? There's so many paradigm shifts about to happen. You have to think about like all of them at once. And I think that's why it swallows up a lot of my time. That the whole reason that there are those power struggles because powerful people have power in the first place. Why do these modern powers have powers? Because they have a fiat system where they can print stimulus to fund wars. And there is a consequence, and that's inflation, and that can devalue the currency, and you end up with Weimar Republic. Or Venezuela or Argentina in the modern day.
Or us 2 years ago.
Or us 2 years ago.
In the construction sector.
Yeah, exactly. Like inevitably.
God, it felt like that for sure.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's what inflation is. Is theft. It's inflation.
Paying people in bags of plaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, mate. I think it's a scary world we're stepping into where people aren't aware of what inflation actually means. It means that someone out there is printing more of what should be a finite supply. Of the money that you make and you spend your time on. So everyone has an output of productivity, And your output of productivity is determined by you and how you choose to spend your time, your intellect, and all these things that you do yourself as a human being.
Yeah.
And if suddenly someone goes, well, the way we're rewarding you with that is with this currency, and by the way, we're printing loads more of it, devaluing that currency, your wage in real terms is going down.
Right.
So they're stealing from your wage. They're just stealing. Yeah. But assets hedge against that, because assets
like they go up in value.
And they go up in value relative to fiat. But actually, what Bitcoin's doing is repricing those assets. And Bitcoin, because everything moves down to marginal cost of production, and because the world is realizing Bitcoin is the true store of value, it's repricing all of them.
So you think that a lot of the money would move out of things like what is classed as the the risk-free rate of gilts, government bonds, and which is technically at the moment classed as risk-free. You think they'd move out of that and into Bitcoin as the store, the new risk-free?
Yeah.
But obviously it's got such a name for being so volatile. How can something like that be risk-free?
Yeah, but so here's Bitcoin. It's volatile and it trends upwards. Yeah. It goes up and down, but it's just only.
If you zoom out,
it's only shot up. So it's volatile on the upside. You look at the fiat currency, it's also volatile and it's only going down. And it's a guarantee it will go down because we run a deficit. So it's never going to go up. The fiat currency, and they want it to go down. It's why the target is 2% inflation. It's the perfect sweet spot between stealing from everyone just enough where they don't realize their productivity is being, arbitraged by the central banks. But not enough where people start getting worried and go, milk's gone up a lot. But suddenly the cat's out the bag, it starts to go a bit quicker. Yeah. And people go, wow, why is milk gone up so much? People start asking more questions. And that's what happened in 2008. And that's why Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever they are, created Bitcoin. Right. But he created it off the back of giants before him, of the cyberpunks, who also came up with a lot of the components that create the technology of Bitcoin. He found out to sort the double spend problem, which then basically solidified this network, or the proof of work network, that could then create this asset class in the digital space that is immutable, perfect. It's the perfect asset class. Perfect.
But there is obviously still restrictions, because we do live in a world where there is, like in the UK, there's a government in place who sets laws, regulations, rules. There are well-known institutions that have been around for 100 plus years. Obviously, the government's been around for hundreds of years. And if they impose a regulation that you can't do X, Y, Z, like you cannot buy property with Bitcoin because of anti-money laundering, and because they want to see back the layer of who owns that Bitcoin and where did they get that money from, and do that full KYC for anti-money laundering, which defeats part of the object of that. There's this thing that they might store wealth there, but can the everyday individual really use it the same flexibility as like a fiat? Because we live in that world. Well, we transact in that.
What they can do is try and bring in as many laws. They can bring in as many laws as they want, as much regulation as they want. But Bitcoin is off the system. So if I want to, if I want to do what I want with my money or with my Bitcoin, I can.
Except for buy property.
Maybe
in the UK, when there's a law regarding how you do that.
And here's what I was speaking about earlier. You imagine the world. Imagine countries are like companies. And because they're just all their own entities, they're all their own companies. Yeah. They all have regulation, they all have sales points, they all have their downfalls. They are like companies. These companies have to compete for intellectual power. They have to compete for the best minds of the world. They have to compete for money and investments and infrastructure development, things like that. And if Bitcoin comes in, and we're seeing this in places like El Salvador and other areas in the world, if Bitcoin comes in and the average retail consumer decides Bitcoin is much better for me than fiat, because I've invested in it for a while now, it's only gone up in value relative to the fiat currency, it's safe, it's secure, it's mine, I am the custodian of it, no one can touch it, and I don't have to worry about the banks coming over with fees and all kinds of shit like that. If they decide that, and the UK decides to impose loads of regulation to stop you doing X, Y, Z, well, Saudi Arabia is fully within their right to go, well, come over here then. And so does other countries. So then national competitiveness,
because
it will readjust.
Other countries don't have the same laws, regulations, rules by fire. They're also
and they'd love to take our capital and take our intellectual power. So, but will AI put a stop to that? So many paradigms. So
this is where you spend your time thinking about then. So what about the people who are watching? Obviously, in terms of people who want to, in terms of the now, want to build property investment, want to build trading businesses, want to focus on actually, that'll be great, I'll store my wealth in something like that, but first I've actually got to make wealth. So, when it comes down to it, should they really be spending a lot of their time and effort right now thinking about that sort of stuff, or should they just be more focused on that, with that mental capacity they have, on building, learning about property or business and focusing on that to try to build wealth?
I mean, I didn't. So I don't know. There's some people do. Like some people can go really vertical on something and stay at it for years and be a specialist in their given field. But I do think generalist knowledge always pays off more, especially if you want to be a business owner. Like knowing a little about a lot of things.
Because that's the problem at the moment, isn't it? Is that the thing with like a Bitcoin or other potential assets like that is that it is a store of wealth, as you were saying, but you have to put your wealth in it first. Whereas with like a business, it's a trading business that you reinvest your capital for a return on capital as well. But it's in theory it's faster. You have these metrics. You want to turnover. You want to increase that turnover faster. You want to increase the profits. But if you had £10,000 and you could leverage that with investors and banks and your professional network to do with like £150,000 property, you could do that. Whereas if you had £10,000, and that £150,000 property may make you 20,000, and get you 10,000 back. Whereas if you had 10,000, and you might be able to do that within 12 months. If you had 10,000, you put that in Bitcoin. You would just have to wait for 12 months to see what's happened to it.
Well, it depends.
And you can't do anything.
It depends, because I'd say if you want to have a strategy for Bitcoin, just dollar cost average. Every month, tax yourself.
So dollar cost average more so.
Yeah. Just put it into Bitcoin. Like you shouldn't see it as a productive measure to, be the judicator of your life and your lifestyle.
What you're saying is
investment.
Just by dollar cost averaging, which is, for those that don't know what that is, can you just quickly explain what that is?
So you don't try and time the market. You don't do anything like that. You just put it in at just a given point. Just at the end of every month, you get your paycheck or whatever, whenever you get paid, and then let's say you're getting paid £2,500 a month, put 10%, 250 quid into Bitcoin, no matter what the price is.
So you basically, what you're saying is if you had that 10,000, you wouldn't just put the full 10,000 in. You need to build, like we've talked about, your property development and investment, your cash flow and trading business on the side. And you would do that, but you would, part of your business, you'd say, £1,000 a month or £500 a month is going into Bitcoin, and that will get reviewed as the business gets bigger. And it just comes in there as an expense, and it constantly grows up, and you're catching the market with it. And whatever happens, you're involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly that. Yeah. With Bitcoin. Yeah. And I think if you've got more capital, like let's say you're sat there with a few $100,000, I'd say, you want to really think about how productive can you be with that capital.
Yeah.
And what risk do you take on putting that capital into property compared to putting, say, a safe portion of it.
Is there a percentage that you have, like your return on capital? You said if you had 200,000 and you say, how productive can I make that work, which is i.e. a return on capital, an annualized return on capital ratio. Do you have a figure? Is it 20%, 30%? That and if it's below that, the rest is going to go into Bitcoin?
If it was my own 200,000, I don't want to be making 100% returns on my money.
So if you think you can make 100% return on capital in a year, annualized, that if you don't have opportunities on the table that can do that, it's going to go into Bitcoin. If you do, it's going to go into those opportunities.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
That is like an investment strategy you've got there. That there with metrics and when you beef that out, you've actually got an investment strategy in your head there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's simple at the moment with Bitcoin. I put everything I had into it initially anyway, because I already have all my chips are in property. So, I suppose it's important for me to emphasize all my chips are in property.
So you don't have Bitcoin?
No, I do.
Oh, right.
I do, but as far as I'm concerned, my wealth is in property.
So at the moment, it's property, Bitcoin.
Yeah, and Bitcoin is what I do with my personal income. Yeah. Any personal bits I get, they just come to me.
Yeah.
It just all goes in Bitcoin. I don't. I'm quite frugal.
If you said then you didn't have Bitcoin, that would have been hilarious.
No, I do. I have Bitcoin. Yeah. And I'll keep buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I want to get a few more Bitcoins this year as well, regardless of where the price goes, because there's going to be a huge. That we've got the halving this year, April 17th, and then we've got the ETF in America coming out, backed by BlackRock.
Okay.
So we're going to see institutional money suddenly flood into the market.
Do you think it's going to change quite rapidly for people? We're going to start seeing it change very quickly.
I think we'll see £100,000 Bitcoin this year, potentially by Q4.
Really?
Potentially. I do think that's going to happen though. You can hold me to that. I think that'll happen. And I think it could also be $1 million.
Be interested to watch this video back in a few years, won't it?
Yeah.
So obviously, you know about my business.
Yeah.
I know about your business. So for those that don't know what I would do, we're a social house building company that we're land-led, so we identify, we secure, and we maximize land opportunities and forward sell them to housing associations. We sell the land and we enter into build contracts, and we build. We're a trading company effectively. We have 220 homes under construction and over 800 homes in the pipeline. And our plan is to build a nationwide house building company split up across at least 10 different regions, all handing over 300 homes a year, just like you can see with PLC house builders, but focusing on the social and affordable housing route. So my business, The viewers know my business. With your business, if you just want to quickly re-explain exactly in a nutshell what you do.
So our main goal is to retain everything. We want to keep everything. We don't sell anything. Obviously, we do the service for investors, but that's just to complement our overall group business. But for all of our stuff, we want to retain everything. HMOs, high-yielding assets, or apartment blocks, or serviced apartments, mixture of the three. We just want to keep buying and holding those kind of assets, turning around our money as much as we can. That's basically what we do.
Fine. So critically analyze my business. Give me some critical feedback.
Okay. This is... I'm gonna caveat this by saying it's my personal perspective.
Sure. And this sounds like it's going to be bad.
And it's also a ignorant perspective, because I don't know the nuances of your business, your field, or competitors in your market or anything like that.
Yeah.
But purely from a high level, to me, the wealth generation in property comes through owning the underlying asset and utilizing leverage, healthy debt, because that's how most millionaires are made.
Yeah.
Most default millionaires we know came through the fact that they just held an asset and accidentally got rich.
Yeah.
So why not try and steroid inject that same process that's worked for so many people haphazardly? Why would we not try and implement that as a strategy? And that is our strategy, to utilize debt in a healthy way, leverage returns, compounding year on year on year. And then you get the residual income on top as well, which you can use in many ways. You can leverage against that as well if you want. And try and reduce that debt position in the long term so that in a bad market, you're weathered. Diversified, lower risk portions, that to me is how you make money in property in a sure way. It can take a while, which is, I suppose, the downside. And I suppose in what you do, forget that it's social housing or anything like that, but just that the fact that you're in a transactional model means that what happens if the business gets wiped out tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, because that can happen.
Of course it
Business can get wiped out tomorrow.
Definitely.
Like, and you've not retained the assets. Then you can look at the years that you spent building it and go, well, you obviously got the knowledge, you obviously got the resources, you gained a lot still, but fiscally, you've lost everything.
Yeah. Okay. Any other critical? That's
That's the high level.
That's the high level.
The high level one is that, because I know the risk you have to take on for long periods of doing these large projects. There's a lot of capital you have to tie up, a lot of variables that can hit you along the way.
So, in a nutshell, basically what I was saying is the model. I've got a trading model, pure trading model, and I should be doing investments either alongside, at least, at the very least. And the reason I'm not, because I'm not, I'm leaving myself too high risk to be wiped out and not have anything. Is that right?
It's not just that. It's not just that. It's also that you're not
losing the store of wealth, etc.
Yeah, not benefiting from leveraging debt, which you know the government's only going to print more of. So it's not that risky. It's just how that's then how good you are at managing.
Okay. So my response to that is I get your viewpoint and I understand. I'm a big fan of investments in general, whether it be property or business or other stores of wealth like Bitcoin. I'm a big fan of investment, and I know that compounding your investments will generate sooner or later phenomenal wealth. From my point of view, when I think about it, is that I have properties and I've been involved in properties, etc. That's fine. And yes, they appreciate, but it could take 10 years for that property to double. They say your property's doubling every 10 years, something like that, right? So you just take that as a benchmark. It's different for every area, but if you just take that as a benchmark, your property doubles every year. Okay, fine. Then you've got the rental income. Imagine that every year.
Every year.
I would be
definitely retaining
that. Yeah, right. Models change, but no, it doubles every 10 years, and you've got the profit from the rentals. Fine. If you look at this business model, the amount of capital you need to do such a large volume, is typically 5% capital required for the turnover. Every £1 of turnover, typically need 5 pence to scale this type of business. Being forward sold, taking contract positions on land, doing that. So if I wanted to build this company to 100 million, then I'd technically need 5% of that, 5 million to do that. If you wanted 100 million of investment properties, you would need more than 5 million to do that, unless it took you a long time to do it with buy, refurbish, refinance strategies, etc. Whereas I could do it faster with a trading business. So by the time, if you take the 10-year process, if I could scale a business from 0 to 100 million over 10 years, and if I could sell it at that point as well, if along the way it makes profits and those cash reserves get reinvested for faster growth, when it comes to sell it, you'd sell it by having your cash back and also selling it for a sales price, in a nutshell. And that's where wealth is actually being stored in that business. Upon that exit, then, I would have, if you look at the maths based on that, you would have ended up, in theory, and I'm going to come back to your risk point, I would have made more doing that, sell it, and been left with money that I could then go on to the next round of investment. Whereas if I bought, 100 million worth of properties and it doubles in 10 years, you're not going to buy 100 million property today. That's going to be over a period of time. So you're not going to get the full 100 million gain. It's going to be probably half that, on average, 50 million or whatever. Whereas if I built a company from 0 to 100 million turnover per year, by the time that we would have retained, in theory, very close to 50 million worth of retained earnings along the way, or even if it's lower. But then you've also got a sale as well price, which it could be 1 times turnover, or 10 times EBITDA at that level, or 8 times EBITDA, whatever it is. But if it's another 50 or 60 million, you end up making more than doing the investment. But the downside is, which you are right, that I could lose it all. It could fail along the way. And that is true.
Right. And I completely understand the exit is much bigger. Well, to some extent, it's much bigger than what you're doing. I could always sell the portfolio as well. So there's also an exit.
Yeah, but we've talked about that appreciation value.
Yes,
that's already factored in.
Yeah. But the difference in that risk is that every time I secure a new project, refinance it, stabilize the asset, it's done.
Well, yeah, definitely. The big risk here is that's a great theory, and the theory is that it's better. But you have property, so that's not going to go anywhere as long as you service the debt.
Yeah.
As long as you fix in your debt.
Yeah.
You mentioned your mortgage going up 4%. You're doing higher cash flow in, so HMOs are serviced accommodation, as well as some good buy-to-rent stuff, standard buy-to-let stuff. So you've done it where you're considering a stressed rental. Your mortgage will probably go to 10%, and you can still service it, right?
Lower cap areas as well.
And you can still service it. So that's fine. The risk of you actually defaulting on that is relatively minimal in my
And inflation is doing a load of the hard work and killing the debt fall.
So that's absolutely fine, and I completely get that part of the model. That's great. I know for me, there is this model out there, and obviously we could go, it could fail along the way. What I'm trying to do to de-risk that is when we get to certain levels, I'm going to be looking to bring in, stronger capital, whether private equity, family offices, or whatever it is, to take away. I don't want debt in the business, and I want the business to be a net positive cash flow in terms of its working capital. Right. So if you can do that and hit those metrics, it de-risks it from that point of view. But we're still open to macro policy changes, government saying, right, at the moment we're committing 1 billion of social housing in Wales, funding 11.5 billion in England. In theory, talk about the black swan, they could just stop that. In theory, something could happen.
Politically
they wouldn't. I put it as low risk.
Yeah.
But in theory, if they needed to, if something happened with what you've mentioned about a Bitcoin, a digital revolution, and something's happened with the economy, it's one of those things where there is. Austerity could come in, but normally when austerity comes in, they put more money into social housing because the number one responsibility of a government is to look after its citizens, and the looking after its citizens starts from the bottom up, because they're the ones in most need. In theory,
in practice, they should let the free market do that, because the only way they're doing that right now is through debt instruments by running a deficit, which inevitably one day will come back to bite future generations have to pay that off somehow. So really, it's a false economy. They're not actually doing a good job of it. They're just appeasing voters because they're ephemeral terms in Parliament. And really, what they're doing is creating an Armageddon in the future that will inevitably come. And they should be incentivised in the private market more than they are the social housing. But they're not. They're scrutinising it.
So, but coming back to your question in terms of and your analysis of it, the other part of my response is, we mentioned it with Bitcoin itself, is that it's a great store of wealth. But if, like you've mentioned with yourself, 100% return on capital employed, if you've got opportunities to make more than that, you're not even putting the money in Bitcoin yourself. Well, you will, but on a lower average dollar cost investment approach. But for us, it's the same thing. If our capital can make a return on investment that's 100% on that cash on cash, I'll put it back into the business to do that rather than moving it to assets. The minute that the business has got to a certain level and that free cash flow reinvestment is the return is getting to a level where it starts falling below that model I've mentioned in terms of the buying investments, adding value to them, having the cash flow and the doubling over every 10 years, and that percentage, I will move the money from that free cash flow at that stage into investments to achieve that. So it's kind of what I'm saying is, it is a high risk approach.
Yeah, I mean,
and this plans them.
Ultimately, they're two completely different models, and they both serve different purposes. And yours, I also would have to say, if we're generalising this, there's not many people that can do what you do. Like, you're quite a unique individual in that sense. Whereas a lot of people could do what I do.
Well, I don't know. So if you look at your business, just from that point of view, when I look at my business and any business really, I'm looking at 4 key pillars. And the number my pillars, they're Vern Harnish's book, Scaling Up. I recommend everyone read it. I look at your strategy. So from you said that you want to have 1,000 tenants. You want to build and retain assets because you've got a personal cash flow goal. Okay, great. Everyone needs an objective and a goal to do. So your strategy of building investment properties in lower value areas but for higher cash flow, in areas though that are lower value but with growth potential, you've isolated an area with growth potential because of the leveling up agenda. It's a smart move. It's a smart thing to do. And not only that, then so strategy, agree. I believe it'll work. That's fine. Got no qualms with that whatsoever. Then you look at your team, your people. Now, obviously, the viewers are not going to know, and obviously, I know I've seen you. And team is both critical for me and you. Without the team, once you've got your strategy sorted, if you don't have the right people, you'll fail anyway. So I believe we both have work to do on team. And so that's what I would say to you as well. Really got to nail that team better, and that it will de-risk your business model. Third one is the cash strategy. So for you, like you've mentioned, you've gone through a risky cash period of those investments tying up and your own developments and losing capital and stuff, having these problems come up, of which is very risky. You've de-risked that by introducing a service. The only problem with introducing a service is that it can end up derailing how long it's going to take you to get your goal, because you'll end up focusing on that, which you've already said. And then if you want to ramp that up because you're an ambitious guy and you've talked about changing up in your target of 50 HMOs a year, it could end up actually setting you back on your personal goal. So I would just be. The problem with that is those trading businesses can turn into a bit of an addiction as well. Is if that starts working, you have more people asking you, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to invest with you. Then you could end up focusing on that and losing your goal.
The good thing about what we do is we've folded everything in. So if I want to buy a property, I just buy it and it just goes to the exact same system and process as all the others. So it doesn't take bandwidth to think about the two strategies differently. They're both the same product, same service, same vehicle, same team working on them. Just one of them we're making a margin because it's a client's job. On one of them we are just charging at cost.
It comes back to people then as well, because obviously you mentioned about having to mothball the site you had to mothball the site from both a cash point of view one time and also from a team point of view another time. So it bounces back between those. If you've got sufficient stock, if you've got the right people and you've got sufficient cash, you can do that. But the constant risk in your business is going to be lack of people and the cash flow timing and problems, which will hit you when you deliver your strategy in terms of your time scale. Then the last one then is genuine execution. You have to nail operations, have to be operationally excellent. And that's a challenge for us. That's a constant for every business. It's a constant. You're never perfect. Always stuff to do. And we both got work to do on that as well. But you get the good people following a great system. In theory, you should have good operations, but always looking, you spend a lot of time on the macro and thinking ahead, which you've said, just also, the day-to-day operations, constantly, how can they be better? Every day, that's got to be the question. What else needs to be better?
It's a 50-50 for me. It's like 50% of the time is on business. 50% of the time is on what's happening in the world. And then trying to make sure that I'm not prioritising one more than the other.
But other than that, mate, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. Coming from a boy band, the largest independent boy band there was, coming with relatively, limited, if not zero property knowledge, going to explode to, doing 30 plus HMOs a year, building your pipeline, which is your portfolio, which is now asset value in the millions, having a pipeline of investors who want to work with you, being oversubscribed for investment, having lots of clients who want to work with you, and building the cash flow positive business alongside of that. Lots of stuff to be incredibly proud of, mate. So, it's a great business, and just carry on doing what you're doing.
Thanks to you, mate.
Be good to see in 5 years where you're at with your investment target, where I've got with this trading business and what type of investments we're doing. But more importantly, mate, we'll stay in touch along the way and keep learning from each other.
Amen, sister.
Ryan, thanks for coming on, mate.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Nice. Bye-bye.